Alrighty, making pot roast. After you've assembled your ingredients, you've got to turn on your oven to 350. Mine's at 325 because it's a convection oven. And then before you turn it on, actually, make sure that your pot's going to fit in the oven. I have to move my top shelf all the way up to the top to get my pot to fit in. So audition your pot, your cast iron pot that's enameled, your big cast iron, in the oven. You might actually have to take your top shelf out to fit your pot in the oven. So audition the pot in the oven and see what you need to do about your shelves. Turn on your oven to 350, and then you've already assembled all your ingredients. You can see that the onions just kind of been quartered or maybe cut into eighths. Your celery's kind of been washed and chopped, not in small chunks but bigger chunks, that way it doesn't totally fall apart. And the carrot's kind of in longer pieces because I find that it holds together better. You know, it cooks a long time in the oven. If you cut up in too small pieces, when you're dishing up, it almost disappears. And then I put in 4 potatoes because I want to have leftovers. Just for ease of videotaping, I put the herb de Provence and some ground pepper in this thing. And there's the olive oil, which I'm going to pour in the pan to sear both sides of the pot roast. And I'm going to just hand pour it, but it usually takes about a tablespoon of oil in the pan. The pan is on the oven, heating up. It's cast iron. It's on about a medium-high setting. And I've got my soup open, my onion soup mix open, and I've got my 4 cups of liquid, which in your case can just be water, but mine is half wine, half water. I've got my meat ready to put in the oven. I've opened the package. I've dried off the meat with a paper towel, both sides, because sometimes if it's just kind of got blood on it, then the searing doesn't take place as easily. Now, as my pan's heating up, I'm going to get my herbs and just put them on the first side, putting them on the first side of the meat, and then I'll do the other side after the meat's in there. Now, how do I know if the pan's hot enough? Well, I get some water from the sink on my fingers, just get my fingers wet, and I come over here and I just kind of see if it bubbles up and away in the pan. And it just kind of went tss, tss, and then I thought, okay, it's ready. But it's still kind of clinging to the sides. I know you probably can't see that. I guess you can. So I'm thinking it probably should be a little hotter. I'm going to try one more time. Get a little more water on my hands and see what happens. It should just kind of dance on the bottom. Oh yeah, see how it's just kind of dancing on the bottom there? It danced and then floated away. So here comes that tablespoon of oil, thereabouts. In the pan, and I'm just going to kind of rotate the pan a little bit. I've got a video camera in one hand and doing this all one-handed, but I'm just kind of spreading the oil on the bottom of the pan, and I'm grabbing my meat with a fork and getting rid of the paper on the bottom of it. Remember, there's always going to be like this spongy paper on the bottom, and the herb side goes down. So it's got to go down. Okay, so the herb side is down. And then we're going to put herbs on this other side. I've never found that you could put too many herbs on a pot roast because it just kind of blends in with the sauce and the water and all that. Again, there's pepper in that. You don't need salt really because there's salt in the mushroom soup and the onion soup mix. So what we're doing is letting the pot brown the meat because it helps hold the moisture in the meat, helps give it some extra flavor. And you just kind of check because you don't want to burn it. You just kind of want to brown it. And you can see it's already getting brown a bit. Turn it over. You can kind of see that it's already starting to get brown there. Depends how hot your pan is, how long that takes. It can take a couple minutes. And we'll let that other side sear, and I think I'll turn it back and let this side sear a little more. So essentially, the searing just really helps hold the flavor in and the moisture in the meat, and kind of gets everything started hot. Because this is called pot roast because a lot of women would just do this. They would sear the meat, throw the vegetables in, the moisture in, which is your water, your soup, whatever, and then turn the pot down on low, cover it up, and leave it on the stove. But you can also do this last step in the oven, which is what I do. So if you're finding that your pan is not fitting in your oven, just finish it off stovetop on low. You just got to make sure you keep enough water in it, which 4 cups usually is enough. So I'm going to check the other side of this meat now, see how it's doing. It's looking good. Okay. There's a lot of herbs on it, so it's kind of hard to show you that it's browning. But it is browning there. And it gets kind of some nice brown stuff going on in the pan that tastes good. And if you, here's a hint, Molly, if you really want your husband to think, or Jack, your wife, to think you're cooking really good, you can kind of start your onions up next to the beef. You don't want to put too much stuff in there because you don't want too much moisture going on, because then the meat won't sear. But there's nothing like onions starting to fry up to make the house smell good. My mother told me it doesn't matter what you're cooking for dinner, if you fry up some onions, your husband will think that you're cooking a really amazing dinner. So we're into this searing, I don't know, probably 3 minutes or so. About 1.5 minutes per side. There's no magic amount of time in this step. You just want to do it. You don't want to just like throw your slab of meat in a cold pan, throw everything in and throw it in the oven. The searing step, just, I don't know, just really adds some flavor to the pan. Yeah, there's like brown bits in the pan and the herbs kind of, cooking down and stuff. It's just, I don't know, just adds some character to the meat, and it just kind of, okay, so what I'm going to do now is just let that keep going on that medium-high heat while I add other things to the pot, which in this case are the onions. It really doesn't matter what order you put them in, but I like putting the onions in because then you can just smell, how good it is in the kitchen. You just really want things to fit in the pot, so you got to cut the carrots small enough so that they fit in the pot. The other major clue is that meat is, searing, so it's kind of stuck to the bottom of the pot. Not stuck, but, adhered pretty closely. So when you pour that fluid in, you want to kind of grab that meat and lift it up so that the fluid does go in the bottom of the pot underneath the meat. So here comes that onion soup mix. You just kind of put it in there. You could mix it in the fluid, I suppose, but I've always just thrown it in there. Here comes the soup mix. Here's that mushroom soup mix. Just throwing it in the pot. Nothing magic about it either. It's kind of hard to do this with holding a camera and getting the soup in there. You can probably hear me scraping it out of the pan. So there's some, mushroom soup in there. You kind of hear that meat still searing and popping. Okay, then you get your 4 cups of liquid. And you just kind of pour it in there, and things start going to the bottom, and you kind of hear that sizzling going on. And if you don't have a stove, or your pot is, too big for the stove, then you just would have to just leave it on the stove top and turn it down to like maybe a 2 or something like that. So here comes the lid. And so if you had to leave it on the stove top, you'd turn this down to like a 2, and it would take a couple hours. But I'm going to turn it off because I'm putting mine in the oven, where it'll also take about a couple hours. And that's how you make the best pot roast in town. Love you all. Bye.